I won a scholarship from the District of Columbia Army National Guard when I was a college student. Scholarship came with a photo opportunity with the commanding general, a big 6-foot by 3-foot check mounted on a piece of cardboard. And my parents were thrilled. I was thrilled. I put that check into my 1972 Volkswagen Bug and drove across the District of Columbia to George Washington University, where I was a student. I took the check up to the cashier's office and tried to stick that check through the cashier's cage. The cashier had this strange look on her face. Went and got her supervisor. Supervisor came out and said, "Sir, I'm sorry, we can't take that check." "What do you mean you can't take that check?" "I was just awarded this scholarship." She said, "Sir, you may want to call the organization that gave you the check." Before cell phones, I leaned my 6-foot by 3-foot check up against the wall, went into the office, called the education officer of the DC National Guard, told him where I was, what had happened, and then I heard silence on the other end of the phone for about 30 seconds. Then I heard muffled laughter, crying, and he said, "I apologize. I fell out of my chair laughing. The real check is sitting here in my desk. Come by and pick it up sometime." I looked at the cashier, looked at the supervisor, said thank you very much, grabbed my 6-foot by 3-foot check and walked back to my dorm, thinking I am the biggest idiot that has ever walked on this planet. That story was embarrassing to tell for a whole bunch of years, but when I started on my journey to become an executive coach, I became curious. Why did I automatically assume that I was an idiot? The answer actually lies in a quote by the fictional character Ted Lasso. The quote is, "Be curious, don't be judgmental." What would happen if I could figure out what I could learn from this? What would happen if I got curious and asked those types of questions? See, curiosity opens up our mind to a whole world of possibilities. But being judgmental narrows our worldview and gets in the way of us showing up as that best version of ourselves. We'll never completely get rid of judgment. That's not the goal. The goal is to become aware of when judging ourselves, feeling judged by others, and judging other people gets in the way of us being that best version of ourselves. So what is judgment? I'm going to steal a line from a former U.S. Supreme Court Justice who said, "Judgment is a lot like pornography. It's hard to define, but you know it when you see it. Or feel it." Judgment, that is. Do you know those people that you have to be really careful when you're around them? The people that are just super sensitive, you have to be careful what you say. When they come over to the house, you almost have to hide stuff. And if I'm being completely honest, I think sometimes those people should be put on their own separate island, their own separate planet, and the world might even be a better place without them. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I'm talking about all of those people, just like myself, who are allergic to nuts. That's right, tree nuts, peanuts. I'm that guy. I'm allergic to all kinds of nuts. But who did you think I was talking about? Where did your mind go? To borrow another line from Ted Lasso, I feel like I've been judged my entire life. I've been married for 32 years. We have 3 amazing adult kids. We have one really cool son-in-law. He told me to say that. We have 2 grandchildren. I've lived on 3 continents. I'm a graduate of the Army's Ranger School, and I like to practice yoga. My musical interests run from jazz to country, from classical to R&B. I have a wide range of interest. When people ask me if I'm a Democrat or Republican, I always answer by saying, no, I'm an American, and I'm proud to have served my country. We live in a great country. But I'm also that guy that tried to cash a 6-foot by 3-foot check mounted on a piece of cardboard. So which narrative am I going to listen to? Not too long ago, a hot yoga studio opened up down the street from us. If I'm being completely honest, I thought that yoga was something that only weirdos did. How much judgment do you hear in that? And if I'm being completely honest, the first time I went, because I got curious, I had a herniated disc. Some friends suggested that, hey, maybe by trying yoga, it'll increase your core strength, increase your flexibility. And I got curious. I decided to go and give it a try. But the first time I went, when I got out of my car, I looked around to make sure that no one saw me going in. How much judgment do you hear in that? Because tough guys don't do yoga, and I could lose cool points. But I stayed with it. I stayed curious. I went in and I found that I actually liked it, and it helped with my flexibility, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And I could start to do some of the poses, but when I really started, I was just bad at it. Again, judgment. But I got better over time, and I actually enjoyed doing it. And as it turns out, my son's college football team did yoga every week, so who knows? Maybe tough guys do yoga. So when we judge ourselves, it's like putting ourselves in a box. When we feel judged by other people, it's like letting other people put us in the box. So what about judging other people? Well, it turns out that can be just as limiting. Karma and the commands not to judge are concepts that most of us are familiar with. You see, when we put someone else in a box, when we're looking at them and we're judging them, that's what we're doing. We stop seeing their divinity. We can stop respecting them as humans, and the downward spiral just continues from there. What happens if instead of judging people, what happens if we get curious? What if we ask questions to understand? What if we ask questions to learn about other people? What if we ask questions to find common ground? Curious questions draw people to us. Questions coming from a place of judgment push people away. When I walked out on stage, I put a picture of a beautiful young lady on the easel. Her name is Annie. Her parents named her that before she was born, but I think it's kind of appropriate. But Annie is my biological granddaughter. Now, I'm pretty sure right now the first question you want to ask is, how could someone so young as you be a grandfather? But be honest, that question that you were thinking, was it coming from a place of curiosity or was it coming from a place of judgment? I'd like us all to consider over the next couple of weeks taking note of when we find ourselves making a judgment. Again, we'll never completely get rid of it. It serves a purpose. But when that judgment gets in the way of us showing up as that best version of ourselves, when we want to, we can choose to raise our awareness. And if we all become a little bit more aware, become a little bit more curious, and a little less judgmental, we can save the world and change it one conversation at a time. Thank you very much.